It has finally happened. The dwarfs have gotten another update, and it is absolutely amazing. Take that as a huge compliment as a high elf player of 20 years who despises dwarfs. And to be honest, the only part of what makes dwarfs overly interesting to me is their elaborate rune system, which Creative Assembly has added into the game. In this video, we'll be covering all of the additions or reworks to the entire dwarf campaign. Now, in the scope of presenting the information to you guys up front, here is the list of all the things that have been reworked or added. An entirely reworked Rune Magic system with new runes to be cast. On that note, too, new character runes and banner runes that can be crafted and added to units and lords or heroes, respectively. The new artifact vault, which is unique to Thorek's campaign. I've detailed that in the video yesterday, linked in the upper right corner. New post-battle options rewarding oath gold or growth and a number of other benefits. The unit requirements for all troops, minus the Rangers, has been removed. So you no longer have to create forges ahead of time to make, say, hammerers and the such. Only thing that is required for Rangers is a tavern, which is awesome. Then lastly, the Grudge system has been entirely reworked, giving you research rate, public order, and dwarf opinion the lower it is, and charge bonus, higher chance to be able to recruit Slayer units from the Regiment of Renown pool, and then penalties to the 3 aforementioned bonuses, the higher it is. So overall, the dwarfs just feel so much more thematic. Each character has received loreful grudges that play in line with their lore, as well as giving you a direction for their campaign in Mortal Empires. Also, these loreful grudges will reward you with master character runes. The best part about all of this, Thorek is an FLC character, and these changes are part of the patch that will launch alongside the DLC. So it's just fun for everyone. So if that's all you wanted to know about the rework without spoiling it for yourself, you're good to go. You can shut the video down and wait for the launch to experience it on your own. If you'd like to hone in on any of the things I've mentioned, you can find chapters in the timeline to jump ahead to any point that interests you the most. If you're enjoying this type of content or you are heading out, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I cannot tell you guys how much that helps any content creator you watch. And lastly, if you've not yet pre-ordered the Silence and the Fury DLC, you can use the link in my description to my Nexus storefront. Nexus is awesome because they preserve the 10% pre-order discount and get you a Steam key directly from the developer. Also, it's just a great way to support the channel. But let's get started on the new dwarf update alongside the Silence and the Fury DLC. And to start us out, I figure why not go into the Rune Magic and Thorek Ironbrow himself. And this is one thing I actually did not show off in the Thorek campaign summary, is Thorek's little, not combat scroll, but his actual unit stats, and you can see they're pretty good here. So really what he benefits from, though, is being in perpetual combat with, God, there's too many damn things on the map, with this ability right here with one more over, Master of the Ancient Lore. So as long as he's engaged in melee, he actually reduces his ability to recharge, and that's pretty advantageous, especially if you're playing in the campaign, because he can use a Master Rune, which will actually do perpetual damage as long as he's in combat. So Thorek Ironbrow, our new Rune Lord, Legendary Lord. I'm actually going to move him over here, and he's looking pretty jacked. He's looking pretty awesome. Pretty stoked on this lord, to be totally honest with you guys. But with that, we get the new Rune Magic. You know what? In fact, I'm going to move Thorek right over here because I can just hear those Longbeards. They're too stoked about this new update. So, as you can see over here in the lower right corner, the Rune Magic is no longer bound to 1 or 2 or 3 bound abilities that have an activatable, that have charges. They are now kind of like their own lore of magic. So let's go through each one of the spells first. Yes, I agree, Thorek. And then we'll talk about this whole action and how Rune Magic works. So, Rune Negation. This is going to give you that 40% damage resistance for 24 seconds. You've got Rune of Oath and Steel, giving you that 30 armor for a 40-meter range for 44 seconds. Now, you can overcast any one of these, and you can see in the upper right corner it says 60 seconds and 120. You can overcast it to essentially cast a master version of it, more or less. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this one next with Rune of Wrath and Ruin, which has probably had, of the 3 we've seen so far, this one has had a drastic change. It is no longer just a direct damage spell that just is like, oh, it's just doing damage. This is now more of an AoE explosion, does fire damage. It's pretty awesome. We'll see it as it kind of kicks into the real world when we jump into this actual battle, and I'll show you it being cast on some Bretonnian men-at-arms. Also, we get a Rune of Breaking, which is going to increase AP base weapon damage, but also infer a 30 armor penalty and sunder armor. Also, we get the Rune of Speed, which is going to increase melee attack by 24 and speed by 45%, which is a really nice boon in an army that has very limited mobility. You slap this on a unit of not dwarf slayers, but a unit of giant slayers or normal dwarf slayers, and these guys are going to be able to hoof it and hunt down some big, hard-to-kill creatures that they can't quite normally grab because they're monstrous cavalry or they're monstrous beasts that can just kind of escape them. Then, the last spell is the Rune of Slowness, which is reducing charge speed, charge bonus, and speed by 40, 45%, and 45% respectively. Thorek himself does get another bound ability here in the Rune of Doom, which is a map-wide 24 melee attack buff that can also make all the units cause fear. So it is quite juicy. In addition to, this is the kind of, think of this almost as the lore passive for Rune Magic. It's called Rune of Hearth and Home. This will give you immune to psychology for for 55 meter range around. Now, if I take a look at any of the runesmiths, you can see that they have the exact same spells. I can just click back and forth. You can see there's no change here. And they'll have Forge Fire, which reduces armor by 15, 40 meter radius around the target as well. So everything, it looks like in the custom battle, the Rune of Hearth and Home is not on the Runesmith, but in the actual campaign, the Runesmith can have the Hearth and Home. It's just a skill you have to activate. And we'll take a look at that when we jump onto the campaign map in the end of this section. But the last thing I want to talk about now is how Rune Magic really kind of plays into the game. So let me hover over this. Characters with access to Rune Magic can cast powerful rune abilities on the battlefield. After a character uses a rune, it will go on lengthy cooldown, and all other rune abilities this character has access to will also go on a shorter shared cooldown. So essentially a global cooldown. These Rune Magic cooldowns are tied to the character which cast them. Runes also have a Master Rune Overcast version. These are more powerful abilities, but become with increased cooldown and a chance to miscast. So let's start this battle. I'm going to put a unit of Longbeards right here. Thorek is over there, Runesmith's over there, just because why not? And let me show you how this works. I'm going to pause real quick. We're going to click here, and then we're going to go to Rune of Negation and just cast it on the Longbeards. Now, you can see that you're going to see a couple things happen. So, a white bar is going to fill up, showing that it's going to take 3 seconds for this to cast. And then after that, a green bar is going to appear, showing that, of course, that this rune is in effect. It shows you the seconds until it counts all the way down. And then, once it counts down, it will be replaced with a red bar, which shows you the cooldown. Let's go ahead and unpause, watch that all take place. The white bar. Pause right now, so you can see everything is now locked for a minute, and this will start to change color back to that kind of bronze coppery color that it was before, or slowly as this goes down. And I can see that for 23 seconds this Rune of Negation is going to be present and active. Let's unpause and let that kind of go through. So as you can see, that's how that works. But if I click over, I'll pause real quick. Click over to this Runesmith. I can cast whatever I want on this character. There's no overall winds of magic to pull from because this is not a lore of magic. It's just very similar to some of the mechanics of lores of magic. So let's go ahead and cast Rune of Oath and Steel, but I'm going to press twice and overcast it. You see, overcast allows me to do that versus Oath and Steel, which is, it's just an increase on the time. I'm sorry. So miscast chance of 50% and a greater effect on armor, doubles it up from 30 to 60. We'll cast that. Let that go through. 1, 2, 3. Now, it looks like it actually miscast. Oh no, it went through. It went through. I thought it made an explosion of a miscast. But you can see that this is going to go off after 44 seconds. It's going to take its time to go through, but you can see that this is now a 90-second recycle versus the 60 it was before. Let's go ahead and again, let this go all the way through. We'll fast forward to that, jump back to Thorek. Now the Rune of Negation is finished. It's on that 120 recycle. Going to go all the way through, all the way through, all the way through, and we're back to good. So what you see are the two numbers up top for Rune of Negation. The 60 second is the total amount of time it is going to recycle this Rune of Magic in the center. So once you cast it as a base Rune of Negation, you can't use any other runes for 60 seconds. And then it will be on a 120 second recast once it's done. If I overcast it, see how that now says 90 and 180? So I can't cast any other rune for 90 seconds, and then it'll take 180 seconds for this rune in specific to recycle. Let's go back to this guy. He's almost done. And you can see that's going all the way through. Boom, 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 boom. Just about there. So, and you can see that this is going about a little red bar is going to come down here, then it's going to recycle again and show another red bar as it goes through its overall recycle. But been 90 seconds, I can now cast another rune. Let's just go ahead and show off Rune of Wrath and Ruin. It's a pretty cool one. Let's go ahead and cast that bad boy. And that's sick. And that's sick. Whoo! Way cooler. So that will now be on, I overcasted it, so it's a 90-second cast. It'll do its business, and it's good to go. Here's the Rune of Speed, just so you can see it real quick. It just kind of goes off real fast. And here we'll cast the Rune of Slowness. I think actually has a an actual effect, so we'll get a little bit closer for that. But this just kind of breaks down how the runes actually manifest themselves in the battles and how it is a little bit different than what we're used to, right? You no longer can just spam runes and go crazy with them. Okay, there's no actual rune on the ground for that. So this is just shows you that Rune Magic is a much different quote-unquote lore of magic now, and you really kind of have to take your time with it. You can't just cast things willy-nilly. Let me jump real quick now into the campaign to show you the skill tree for the Runesmith before we move into some of the other new mechanics with the dwarfs. Moving into the campaign map, you can see the skills for Goat Tree here and the Runesmith, and how this kind of progresses itself very similar to, again, a lore of magic. You start off with your first spell, you get 3 spells immediately, you get Forge Fire to bridge that gap, and then we get the last spells in Rune of Breaking and Negation. And like I said, Rune of Hearth and Home is your passive ability that is present for rune smiths in the game. Then lastly, you'll get Ward Breaker and Strike the Runes, which helps reduce that shared cooldown by 10% for all Rune Magic. But I just wanted to show this off really quick in the actual campaign map, so now you have a sense of progression of how these runes kind of manifest themselves across each and every runesmith that you're playing with. I'm going to quickly go through these, so you can just jump back and pause the video if you so wish to see what happens as you upgrade each one of these. The next subject I want to talk about are the new character and banner runes that are present in the game. So with the Forge rework, they've added these 2 buttons, character runes and banner runes. And these 2 things allow you to, well, create character and banner runes. Essentially, you can create a stack of minor runes, you create 3 at a time, or you can make a master rune, which you can only create 1 of. Now, when you create it, you only get to create 1. You can't make multiple master runes of adamant here, for example. The only way to get multiple versions is if the legendary lord you're playing has a grudge that allows them to get, say, the master rune of Ulrich the Mad. You can get this either by forging it or by fulfilling a grudge if you are playing as the White Dwarf. Every single dwarf character, for the exception of Thorek, has their own set of loreful grudges that grant them a master rune. And again, each one of these is right here for you to take a look at. I'll just kind of quickly scrub through this very fast, and we'll show how these kind of come into your actual character. But you also get your banner runes. Now the banner runes, again, all minor ones can be crafted in bulk of 3, with the master ones being crafted as a single one. Now the master runes also can be part of loreful grudges, or in the case of Thorek, they will be actually part of acquiring a certain quest item or a skill, which will grant that master rune. And then again, once you get the rune, they're either relegated to a non-character unit or an artillery piece. Take the Master Rune of Disguise here, which is disgustingly strong. Missile resistance 20%, ability stock, and snipe for any artillery unit. It's glorious. So we're going to close this, bring up Thorek here, and we get character runes, which are then present right here. And you can stack whatever. You're not limited. Yeah, I could do all master runes if I wanted to do that. You don't have to have a certain number of minor or major. In the actual army book, you're limited to the amount of runes you can put on your character. You're only just limited to the number of 3, but you can have all 3 master runes if you so wish, and they're equipped just like they would any other item. Now for your banners, again, same thing. You would place them here in your followers, runes, and banners section, and you can see that you get more as a dwarf to compensate for that. And once you jump into a battle, you can place them on your unit, just like this. So these longbeards here have this master or this rune on them. Oh, come on, hover over it. Just get it. There, rune. There we go. The rune's active, gives them expert charge defense and bonus versus large. Or the grudge throwers here, which is a pretty cool one if it actually goes off. Rune of Burning adds explosive damage that reduces enemy leadership. So that is the new character and banner runes that have been acted through the Forge or from Loreful Grudges, which we'll take a look at the end of the video. Another new mechanic that was added to the dwarfs is for the Master Engineer, and it's a skill called the Zufbar 42 Pounders. And this is very similar to the Vampire Coast and their army capability, in which case they get this wind attack that will do damage on the battle map, but this is an actual activatable skill instead. You've got 2 levels of it right here, and then the second one, which just gives you an additional use of it as well. So just wanted to quickly showcase this one for the Master Engineer. Now, as far as the new post-battle options go, you get 2 different options here. The first one is Execute and Loot, which is going to grant you 10 Oath Gold and Treasury in this point. I mean, obviously, that's not a fixed amount. It'll just be dependent upon the actual fight you're fighting. And then also, you get Drink to Victory. So for 2 turns, income from all buildings in the local province are increased by 10%, growth is increased by 20, and public order is increased by 5. So if you are actually fighting a defensive war, Drink to Victory can actually be really huge in bolstering your own province that you're doing your fighting in. I think that's a really awesome, very flavorful little dwarf touch there. But those are the new post-battle options for the dwarfs. Next up is unit requirements. Now, in the past, almost everything in the dwarf roster had some sort of corresponding building attached to it. Longbeards with great weapons needed armories. Same thing with correlers with great weapons and dwarf warriors with great weapons. Miners with blasting charges needed gunsmith's forge. The list goes on and on. But if I take a look now, blasting charges, dwarf warriors with great weapons, warlords with great weapons, I can just make them as is. As long as I've created the building that corresponds to them, I can do it. The only other item, or I'm sorry, the only other unit that requires a building is Bugman's Rangers. This unit requires secondary building, drinking hall. And I'm totally fine with that. I think that that is totally a fine requirement for any unit to have, especially the Bugman's Rangers. But as you can see, everything else for the most part just requires you to build its corresponding building and you're good to go. This releases a lot of the tedium of the dwarf campaign. I almost said orc, don't tell the dwarf players. Release a lot of the tedium of the dwarf campaign, so you're not having to build so many buildings in your limited building slots to have the recruitment capabilities of some of the units you need in your campaign. So really kind of unlocks the entirety of playability here. Now, lastly, we have the Great Book of Grudges and its rework as well. So the grudges don't fill up as much as they have before in the past, but every single character will have, again, some very loreful grudges. We're taking a look at Thorek's grudges, but in a little bit, we're going to look at some of the other characters to see how you get their master runes. But we get a corresponding bar at the top that will give us some bonuses. So at the very beginning, we get Satisfied. The grudge is satisfied. This gives us diplomatic relations, plus 20 with dwarfs, research rate of 20, public order of 3. Then on start, low chance that slayers will be added to the Regiments of Renown pool. Let's look at that real quick. Click on Thorek, click this button, and wha-bam, you can see the giant slayers are here and the slayers are here. And as they have a higher chance of entering this pool, the more dissatisfied people are with your grudges. So let's go back to that real quick. So up to the next level, we get Irked, which is going to reduce everything pretty much by half. 10 diplomatic relations, 10% research rate, 2 public order, a low chance, and then Grumbling, no benefits, but a moderate chance that slayers will be added. Angry, now you get penalties of -10, -10%, and -2 to the 3 that we've already been talking about. But now you get a +5 charge bonus and a high chance that Slayers will be added. Double those penalties to 20, 20%, and 3. And, well, maybe not double because that's public order, just goes up by 1 or down by 1. Then charge bonus goes up to 15 with a very high chance that Slayers will be added to the Regiments of Renown pool. So the Grudges system works a lot better here. You actually get rewards for being lower and you get benefits for being higher in that you can get access to Slayers quicker, that you can really kind of push these Grudges a little bit easier in getting a nice big stack of Slayers or Giant Slayers to hunt down the perpetrators of these Grudges. So I'm all for the Grudge rework. I think it is a really well done loreful little bit for the dwarfs. How many times I said loreful in this video? I'm just going to keep doing it because the next thing now we're going to look at is how these great Grudges go into the master runes for the other characters that are not Thorek. Thorek does not have any Grudges that correspond to master runes. All of his are relegated to his artifact vault. The other lords will be getting master runes from doing their Grudges. So let's take a look at those real quick. Starting us off with Thorgrim, let's take a look at his Great Book of Grudges and see what he's got. So he gets the Master Rune of Flight by just fighting Grimgore. He also, if he takes Black Crag, he gets the Rune of Velaya here. Oh, I'm sorry, the Master Rune of Flight, there you go. Causes some moderate damage, effective at close range, good penetration against armor. Master Rune of Velaya for taking Black Crag. For fighting 5 battles, winning 5 battles against Clan Eshin, he gets the Master Rune of Disguise. And then for capturing and occupying Carrick Asgal, he'll get the Rune of Adamant. I think there's one more on the other page. No, that's not an actual master rune, but these are the 4 master runes you would get if you were playing Thorgrim and his corresponding loreful Grudges. White Dwarf also has some pretty good ones here. So we get capture and occupy the following settlement of Mount Gunbad, giving us the rune of Stormy Firebeard. This is 5 attack and melee, 5 melee attack and leadership as a buff to anyone around you. Also gives a melee attack to the assigned non-character unit. With the Master Rune of Alrek the Mad, you have to win 5 battles against the following race, the High Elves, which is super great if you're thinking about the War of the Beard. This is going to give you a reduction to your base weapon damage, but increases your AP damage significantly. Also, the Shining Vaults Grudge, which is going to give you the Rune of Immolation for taking Mount Silverspear. And then lastly, the Rune of Spite for winning 5 battles against the Dark Elves, even themed here against the Great Traitor Malekith. So a really awesome little bit of lore there. I really love that. This has got a really awesome Mortis engine effect, so it'll do damage perpetually as long as you are in combat, which is just awesome. Next one, I don't think we had no more. That's usually just 4, so I just wanted to make sure. But let's jump over to our next character. For Belegar, he only gets 1 grudge that grants him a master rune, but plenty of other grudges. The main one here, though, to look at is the one to win 5 battles against the Crooked Moon faction, giving him, again, this master rune of Spite. A pretty quick one, but let's jump now into Ungrim. So just like the first 2 lords, Ungrim will also get 4 juicy loreful grudges here. One giving him the Master Rune of Flight for winning 5 battles against Clan Mulder. The Master Rune of Stormy Firebeard, or Redbeard, sorry, for capturing and occupying the settlement of Silver Pinnacle. Then you get the Master Rune of Passage for taking Red Eye Mountain. And then lastly, the Master Rune of Snorri Spanglehelm, Spanglehelm, for taking Carrick of Log. And there you go, guys. You have all of the aspects of the Dwarf campaign that have been reworked or added, just kind of truncated there for you. Now, if you have any questions about other things that were added or changed, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. I unfortunately was not intimately aware of all of the things of the Dwarf campaign prior to this, so there might be something that you noticed or a question that you might want to ask about a unit stat line or something of the sort. Pretty much all the units now can have wildly awesome new characteristic capabilities because of these banner runes. Like for instance, one of them allows for artillery pieces to have homing missiles, for essentially they're anti-large homing missiles that will actually hit the target dead on rather than possibly missing. So a lot of really fun things can be brought to the table with a lot of your units using these runic banners and these character runes in just an awesome, flavorful way. I'm really excited to play through a Dwarf campaign now. seeing all these dwarf mechanics to actually make them really fun and interesting, and not just simply, okay, make a bunch of buildings that you hopefully will allow you to make half of your army, but then you got to make another half of those buildings in another location, make the other half of your army. Just a lot of the kind of tedium, like I've said so many times, of the dwarf campaign has been lifted to allow you guys to enjoy a dwarf campaign if you so wish. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun action. And if you have not yet picked up Silence and the Fury, please use that Nexus link in my description to help the channel out. But have a good one and take care.